Good. All right, everyone. Hello, back with D'ART Shtajio's vlog, episode 17 this time. I'm Henry Thurlow.
Marthel Eisen.
All right, so this time is what we're going to be talking about. We check all the comments, right? And one comment I've noticed again and again is like, how come you guys don't produce your own stuff? A few weeks ago, we did like a quarantine kind of episode talking about stuff that's going on now. And some comments were like,
social distancing, make sure you keep it up. That's why we have a little bit more. Actually, move over a little bit more.
Yeah, just out of camera. But some of the comments were like, "Oh, perfect time for you guys to produce your own stuff." You know, if all the in general Western clients are putting their projects on hold and stuff. Here's the thing: you can't just produce what you want, and I kind of wanted to address that. So it's like, why not? For the artists watching this, I assume that they understand it, but for just fans. Like, well, why not? Ghibli produces their own movies, and Madhouse announces a movie every now and then. Hey, we're making Redline. Oh, where'd that come from? Well, they just produced it. Why don't we just produce our own movie? Yeah. First things first. That's what I want to do, and that's what we both want to do. At the end of the day, I'm super honored and happy, and I love working on all the different projects we work on and animes we work on, One Piece and all these things I'm a fan of, and I finally get to work on. But at the end of the day, I hope that's the thing on the side that I'm known for, and Henry also worked on lots of famous stuff. And the big thing is, like, we made our own movies, we produced our own films, right? Like a Ghibli kind of thing, right? Like Ghibli made their movies,
Disney
that's made theirs, and D'ART made theirs.
D'ART made this and this and this,
Yeah. So ideally, that is what we want to do. But so why can't we just jump right into that? And the quick answer, but we'll go into more detail, is obviously money. Because if you're making something for yourself, then there's no funding from anywhere to keep the lights on, not just at your studio, but at our apartments, right? Like there's no money coming from anywhere because there's no job happening. Yeah. At the end of the production, theoretically, if you make this whole thing, right, we spend a year, 2 years, 3 years, and we make our film. Then, hey, at the back end, there could be lots of money, maybe even, let's say it's a huge hit, millions and millions of dollars. Okay, that's true, and fingers crossed that's how famous our movies would get. But what happens for 2-3 years? It's not a job, so it's just 3 years of no money. And how do you do that? That's impossible.
And even to kind of, so we're going to kind of go into all of this as we're talking today, but just to kind of like have the bullet points. But so Henry said at the end, we'll make the money back. So that's still even up in the air, because of course. That would be relying on everyone going to watch, to support the film. Because if you don't support it, then we spent 4 years making something, and then everyone doesn't go watch it. Now we're really, really negative, right? And that's when companies go bankrupt and they disappear, which is the reason why it's super important for you guys to support, support all movies and all films, even the ones that you aren't fans of. Because like right now, it's a big thing where people are just making, remakes, reboots, things like that. Yeah. But then the original creations that come out, probably from the smaller studios and things, then people don't go and watch those, right? So because people often bring up like Shinkai or something. Oh, but Shinkai did it, But then it's like sometimes you pick I'm the worst when it comes to expressions and things because I've been here too long. But what is it? The exception to the rule. Right? Is that what the expression is?
Oh yeah. The exception proves the rule. Is that what you're kind of
thinking? The exception doesn't prove the rule.
No, the exception proves the rule. So like the fact that it works. So you're saying Shinkai's movies are famous, right?
Yeah, and he started.
But that's like a really unique thing. It's such a standout, right? Yeah. So I guess I get where you're going with that. Like. There's a lot of productions that probably didn't have the funding of these gigantic reboot, films and series. But just because it might have had a lesser budget and is something original and not something established, like definitely support that as well. Maybe even support that more because, they probably bet a lot more on that production than the reboot studio bet on theirs. That's probably a studio with lots of money, and obviously they own the rights to something already famous, right? And so if that is super successful, or if that bombs, of course it matters to them. But at the end of the day, they're probably in a position where that's not going to bankrupt them either way. That's just they'll see how profitable they are. Whereas the productions produced by a smaller studio that's an original production that they're sending out into the world, either on Netflix or on in theaters or whatever, they probably bet it all on that. It's like, this becomes famous, a lot of people watch this, or it was all for nothing, right? So definitely make sure, help those out. And in the future, when we do come out with something, support it. Don't just be like, oh, that's interesting, I read the article that they were producing something, that's neat, and then forget about it. If when it actually drops, when people don't flock to it, then that would be, so it's kind of like that. I don't know, what do you call it? Those ending prophecies. I'm bad with my expressions, but like a self-ending prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. But like the opposite, right? I don't even know if you are fluent in English at this point. Like English is your native language, but at this point, like, you don't remember anyone's name, you don't remember any title of movies. There's no expressions. You'll be talking and then say, "Where was I going with that? I was going somewhere with that, but I lost." Can you finish sentences at this point?
But so back on topic is like so the question was like, why don't we produce our own things, right?
Yes.
So we need the budget, and you need so then we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? The process of producing your own content, and of course it would depend on the content that you want to make. Are you trying to make a movie or trying to make a series? Whatever. The budget is different.
To some extent, I hesitate at this point in our careers to even give too much of a suggestion, because behind the scenes here, obviously we're not going into any specifics on that, but we're constantly in talks with people, right? So we're trying from every angle to make sure something like that happens, that we do make a production. But to be honest, it's hard, and we haven't succeeded yet, and so understand even. I think we're in a pretty good position. I bet a lot of people out there are individual freelance artists or just anime fans, who have ideas but are in no position whatsoever to produce. We are here with great resumes and portfolios in Japan with a studio that even has production capabilities. Like, you would think we're 99% of the way there, right? Well, look at these guys. They're set up and ready to go. That's awesome. And even it's very difficult securing funding for projects that are not jobs. Jobs come to us, but we want to make something, fund this. To make those pitches and to convince any investor anywhere, whether it be companies or individuals, etc. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is really, really difficult. And so we won't talk about that today. Maybe in the future we'll talk about like pitching and all these different things like that. But so today we're just talking about the difficulties of just producing your own project, right? Because those are the comments that we've gotten. And so we've been kind of going off on small tangents and things, but to dial it back in. I think so, as Henry initially said, you still need initial funding, like what they call seed money, right? Like if you want to create anything, because if you're one person, right, if you're an individual, so like Shinkai, right, so then you can sit in your house for about 3 years or something, and then you can produce something by yourself, because you can, if your mom is paying for everything, right, you don't have to work, and you live with your mom and dad.
Hold on, because that's even loaded a little bit the way you say it. Like,
is it loaded?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why someone would be able to, I think, do that. They could be married and their spouses supportive.
If you just need support,
they could have won the lottery. They could naturally be wealthy.
You could have won the lottery.
They could have. Well, they could have. They could have. for one reason or another, they could actually own the house that they live in, so that there isn't a rent or whatever. For whatever reason, you have the capabilities of sitting at home, writing and storyboarding your own personal.
So
thing.
the main thing is, as long as you have some sort of support base, right, where finances aren't a concern, or like
right.
So, and that could be anything. I just give the example of like, if your parents are, if you live with your parents, that's assuming that like we're all young, like that you guys are young, right? So you don't own a house, but because most people don't own houses, right? So but like as long as you have some sort of financial base, and then you can just focus on producing, because in our previous, or in one of our previous vlogs, we just talked about the basics of what's needed, right? So that financial base would only support one person. That would just support the person who owns the house or who lives. Because now, if we said that you at least needed about 10 people or 8 people, right? And that financial base doesn't support everybody else, and then that's the second problem, right? So now, let's say it's a company, and companies have at least 100 people, 200 people, or if it's a small company, the number of people doesn't matter. You still have to pay the people who are working for you or with you.
Once it goes beyond whatever it is you personally are going to do, right? So there could be one person deciding, like, okay, I'm going to get my movie started or whatever, right? Like, or if it was like 2 of us together, right? But even still, like, how far do we go before the production actually has to start, and it's not just 2 people throwing around ideas and storyboards, right? Because once you have that, like, there does need to be a day where, hey, we need to actually bring in character designers and things like that, right? And we have a studio. Arthel, guess what? We have a studio. There is a character designer, and there are animators. Well, then I guess we can just make our own thing. But here's the thing: if we tell, because we can tell the character designers and animators, hey guys, guess what? Starting today, the sequences we're gonna pass you, the character designs we're gonna ask you to make are this original idea. So let's move forward with that. We actually can do that, but because right now what they're working on is stuff that is bringing in some money somehow.
Yeah, exactly. We're working on jobs.
The day that we tell anyone to not do that and instead work on this original idea, we're moving forward with it, is the day that all of a sudden all income stops.
Just disappears. Yeah.
So instantaneously, you're just dooming yourself at that moment, right? If there's no investor, there needs to be an investor. So one of us could be rich. Are you super? I'm not. Unfortunately. Okay, so we can't. So that means the 2 of us are not going to be self-financing. So someone or some company or something has to finance even the very early stages, so that one day you can say, "Hey, everyone, we're doing the original thing."
So we'll go into why that's important, right? Because you're like, well, you can finance it later. It's not so important, right? But so there is like. So the dream is that everyone just loves everybody, and we're all just going to work for free for 5 years. But, and I think a lot of creative types probably will, like, most of us have that energy and that kind of want to do something like that. But, but then there's the real world around us, right? And the real world requires us to pay rent, and pay electricity, pay utilities, and pay for the computers and pay for the software, right? Like now you have programs that now you can't even buy them outright, right? Like subscriptions, so you have to pay them every month. And so there's all these bills that come up. Plus, your staff wants to eat dinner and lunch and breakfast.
Yeah, no. Even as you go off here, like you're probably not going to find almost any artist as stubborn as me, to be honest. About I just want to work on passion projects and things I love. Like I'm almost psychotic when it comes to that. But even me, I can't just not like I can't work on something that is going to be profitable in no way, shape, or form. Even if anime pays super terrible, which is we've talked about, it's paying something. It's terrible, but like I'm still gonna have food tomorrow, and I'm still gonna pay the rent at the end of the month. At no point would even I be able to be like, let's do that thing that's going to result in no money for the indefinite future. You can't do that ever at any point in your life. That's crazy.
We're all end up on the street.
But immediate, and the thing is, immediately. It's not. It's not like. like I would actually probably be okay with betting it all. Well, this is just me personally because I'm crazy, right? I would probably be okay with like trying to bet it all on a movie or something, right? But under the assumption that at least until the movie's done and we see how that bet works out, my rent is paid, right? Like if there's no, if all funding of everything, all income stops immediately, then literally at the end of next month I'm super screwed, right? Or in 2 weeks I'm super screwed. So it's like, obviously I just can't do that even if I wanted to. So there's no way to just one day say, let's work on our own original project, everyone who's with me, because in 2 weeks then everyone is quitting because all their lives are ruined. You can't do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, so that's the financial reason.
Yeah, that's the reason.
So that's the reason, right? So that's why it's becomes really difficult to just kind of go out and make your own production. And then the next, I guess, so that's two things. And then the last thing I think would be, which we kind of mentioned, so we mentioned all these things in the beginning, but the last thing would be, once say somehow you were able to make it, right, because you had some sort of support base, which normally means that that these people who are investors, and they might not be corporate investors, or like, maybe they might be, I don't know, they wouldn't be angel investors either, because that's super difficult to get. But let's just say your family, friends and whatever, you have a house and stuff, so your family has given you money and friends have given you money. They're essentially still investors, right? Like these, they don't have endless pockets, right, of like endless wallets of money, which means that somehow you're going to have to return that back to them, right? So, and then because no one's going to just give you stuff indefinitely forever, right?
The best you could even hope for, and even this is a dream. Like let's say our best case scenario is one of you fine viewers happens to be a multimillionaire and say, well, I want to see these guys succeed. How about I throw $3-4 million at a project and see where it goes? That would be like the dream scenario. We get that email. Oh my God, we're moving forward. But even in that, at the end of the production, obviously our fine viewer wants that money back, or a percentage. Like, it's not just even back. Obviously, if it's a profitable movie, then they also are profitable. So it's like you're not just going to get free millions of dollars that you can then also fail with.
And so how do we give that back?
Yeah.
Right. And so because that is super important. Like if you borrow anything, you need to return it.
Yeah.
And so and then that's when we get to all the fans need to support these things, because if say you make something great, and because the onus isn't only on the viewers, like the onus is on the studios, because there are lots of bad movies out there and bad stories. So once we have that, it's our job to then produce something amazing and work really, really hard, and not just say, oh, they're gonna watch it anyway. And then so let's just say we did that, we did our job. But then now we do need for the fans to then go out there and then buy the tickets and view it multiple times, because if you do that, then now we can. The reason is not just so you can say it was the most popular thing in the world. That is actually not important. It's because then we can pay the investors back, and then the investors say, oh, this is a profitable company. Oh, this is a profitable IP. Okay, now we can start making merchandise. Oh, now we can do this. And
then that leads to other future projects. I mean, obviously, the end goal wouldn't also be we make one movie, it bombs, but we get to say we made the movie, and then the end, right?
Exactly.
That's not the story of Shinkai or Ghibli or anyone. They made one. Ghibli made Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, and then it's not like they made that one movie and then disappeared from the face of the earth. Then they made a whole bunch more, and Nausicaa is just one of their multiple. So, yes, after the first one, the investors have to be like, well, I enjoyed that experience, and so now I'm going to invest in another one and another one. So, yeah. And one last thing, and I know I've said this a million times, and I'm not trying to repeat myself. It genuinely comes up. This is why I'm still concerned with like followers and stuff, right? Because
especially now, right? And now, social media is the follower count actually.
One other reason, or the reason, is trying to convince investors, and again, that's a different blog post altogether, like how to convince investors. But like convincing investors is much more reasonable, like and probably an easier thing to do if the investor is like, well, these guys say that they can produce this. Let's see how many people already know about them and like them. Holy crap, they got 2 million followers on that thing. Well, now I know that millions of people already like these guys.
And so that's already a percentage of that, right? So let's say half, but at least if you have 2 million followers, at least means 1 million people will go and watch this.
It means a lot of people are looking at what these guys are making, for sure, right? And so all eyes are already on them. Now maybe I'll help their production so that they can produce something really good, right? Whereas if they look and it's like, well, no one's really looking at these guys, suddenly it becomes a lot harder of a conversation to
because they consider it. So right now with social media, right, like the reason why the number of followers that you have matters is, say for example, so they're thinking about merchandising purposes, right? So you're advertising. So if you have 1 million followers and you're selling whatever water that costs $1, right? So now, if you sell that water to at least half of that, so 500,000 people buy your dollar water, you get $500,000. So then that is guaranteed money, right? It's like, okay, we know that we can at least get $500,000 from this viewer or from this person who has an Instagram thing. But if you have 0 viewers, right, or 0 followers, they're not guaranteed anything. So they're like, why are we going to give this person money when we know we can see that there's no way to get this money back, right? It doesn't equal dollars, right? So that's that.
That's that, and so that is why, unfortunately, you will not be seeing in any immediate future 100% original content from us. We will still be producing stuff for clients and participating in other productions
until we get 1 million followers. So please like and subscribe, click the bell, and like we say always, Shtajio.
Shtajio. See you guys.